Various ways within ISIS Vision that you can use kingdoms and family charts to good effect. Let me show you the most obvious, which is following a repertorization. First of all, I'll open up our tutorial case, like so, quickly confirming we have 8 rubrics on the clipboard, and then I'll click the repertorize button. From here, in order to see which families and kingdoms are coming through a case or a repertorization, you click on the presentation method and change the default entry, which is a repertorization chart, to either families or kingdoms, and in this example I'll choose to see the kingdoms. And here we have a beautiful pie chart showing us the breakdown of the major kingdoms. So we have the plant remedies, or the plant kingdom, the mineral kingdom, the animal kingdom, and the little slice of yellow there are other energies, which in the old days used to be called imponderables. Now, a quick word before we move on. The difference between kingdoms and families is very important to understand. Within ISIS Vision, kingdoms means the correct botanic and taxonomic naming and breakdown of remedies. Those are the breakdowns and classifications that any scientist or botanist would recognise and understand. The use of the word families within ISIS is somewhat different, as we homeopaths sometimes group our remedies slightly differently to the way that other botanists or scientists would understand, and so for that reason we keep them entirely separate. If you want to work with kingdoms, the kingdoms approach, you can. If you want to work with the homeopathic families approach, you can, and both are interchangeable. Now, as we're in kingdoms now, we're looking at the beautiful pie chart. Let me show you how you get more information. Basically, to see which animal remedies were present in this case, you would double click the red slice of the pie chart, the mineral remedies the blue slice, and the plant remedies the green slice. And just so you know, because of the breakdown of the remedies in our materia medica, you're often going to see this kind of pie division. Now let's suppose we want to look at the plant remedies coming through this case. To see further information, we simply double click the mouse on the green slice, like so, and then we get a further chart breaking down the plant kingdom into the sub-kingdoms like dicotyledons, monocotyledons, gymnosperms, fungi, fern allies, lichens, and so on. And again, this kind of breakdown, with dicotyledons being the largest, is fairly common because they are the largest represented plant kingdom within our materia medica. But to get more information on the dicotyledons, once again you double click the bar, and now we're getting down to the actual families, the plant families coming through the current case. And what this chart tells us is that the Ranunculaceae just are slightly more present than the Solanaceae, followed by the Loganaceae and the Asteraceae, and so on. Now, to run through more families than you see initially displayed here, there is a setting called Items on Page, and you can increase that to suit your personal preference. And there's also a little scroll bar underneath it which you can use to go through all the families or kingdoms presenting in the chart. Now, if we decided we wanted to look at the Loganaceae remedies in this case because we were familiar with the themes of this plant family, but we wanted to see the remedies coming through the current case, yes, once again you would double click on the family in question, in this case Loganaceae, and then ISIS will give you a beautiful chart of the Loganaceae remedies coming through the current case. And as you can see here, Nux vom first, followed by Ignatia, and this number here is the number of occurrences in the current case for each remedy. Just before we move on to families, if you want to look further at an individual remedy, by double clicking on any of the charts here, you can actually go straight to Materia Medica, like so, and read all about that remedy. Okay, let me just go back to our repertorization chart to continue. This time, for the same case, I'll show you the families chart. So again, we click the presentation chart and change to family. And in this case, we get some cones here showing the most common homeopathic families in the case. Now, a word of caution here. The tree family is so large in the homeopathic materia medica that it's nearly always going to be the first family. So please learn to disregard that and look at the families coming through after the trees. Now in this particular case, it's pointing us to the carbon family and then the acid family, and so on and so forth. And just as before in the kingdoms chart, you can increase the number of items yourself and even scroll through all the families coming through the current case. To see which carbon remedies are coming through, once again you double click and you can see instantly a chart here, a bar chart of those carbon remedies most present in the current case. As you can see, calc carb and kali carb are the most represented. At this stage, let me introduce you to a couple of facilities that you might find incredibly useful, and this applies to any of the charts, the glorious colour charts you see here in ISIS. Towards the top left corner there are a few icons that you can use. For example, a save icon, which allows you to save the picture of the chart as a graphic on your Windows system. So for example, you may want to take this into Microsoft Word or a PowerPoint presentation, and this little screen allows you to save the chart. Similarly, you can just click Export Chart Image, which gives you far greater control and allows you to create JPEGs, for example, for use on a website, or just to copy what you currently see onto the Windows clipboard so you can paste the image directly into Word or PowerPoint or your website. You can choose to simply print the chart if you just want to print it off quickly and put it in the patient file, or send it to someone else. And there are other icons here which you can learn about through trial and error, really, in practice, that allow you to rotate the chart and expand it to suit your needs. Let's move on then to the other ways in which you can use families and charts within ISIS, and I'll just close this button here, and we'll this time move away from repertorization and let's go back to the repertory and just point out a few other areas in which you can use kingdoms and families. So here we are back in the repertory browse in the combined repertory mind chapter, and let's suppose as we were working a case or just researching and educating ourselves in homeopathy, let's find a rubric. Let's say we have a patient who is not very talkative. Now in the repertory that will be under talk, and let's say desire to be silent, taciturn. Now here's an interesting thing. There are 208 remedies in this rubric, and if you highlight the rubric by clicking on it, then these two icons on the toolbar here become available to you. So let's have a look at which families are the most represented in indisposition to talk or wants to be silent. Let's have a look here. That's interesting. Again, carbon remedies are right at the top of the list there, and very interestingly they're so prevalent in this rubric they even overtake the tree remedies, which is quite unusual. So this indisposition to talk and the carbon family could be quite significant, and to find out further we double click the carbon remedies to see. In this particular case you can see a list of them starting with adamus the diamond, ammonium carb and so on. But just to go back to the previous chart, this is one little way in which you can actually learn about certain things prevalent and present in families, just to improve your own knowledge and education about families and their themes. Another way we can use charts to good effect is after we've performed a repertory or materia medica search. So let me perform a search here as an example. Let's go to search and let's search for something as simple as fear of the dark, and we'll do a search of the repertory, and we've got all of the repertories here with all of the rubrics and all of the chapters and rubrics connected with fear of the dark. At this stage again we now have three buttons available: kingdoms, families and remedies, and they will now operate on the entire search results. So just to give you an example, if I show you the Remedies chart, what will happen now is ISIS has gone through every rubric and chapter in every repertory that has some connection with fear of the dark, and it's showing you here the remedies that have the most correspondence. So you can see across all our remedies, the remedy stramonium, which I'm sure you'd expect, has the most occurrences in all of the repertories. Interestingly though, would you have thought valerian was the second, or even that ozone was the fourth? So in this way, with symptom clusters, you can also learn about the different families of remedies. You can also use the families and kingdoms icons on the toolbar here, following any repertory or materia medica search, and I'll just quickly show you this working for the kingdoms. If I just click the kingdoms icon, we get our pie chart showing the division of plants, minerals, animals. This is quite a significant chart because in this case the number of mineral remedies is the same as the plant remedies, and animals not so far behind. That's not a typical result. You would expect to see more plant remedies by and large in any chart, and where that's not the case, it's quite significant and worthy of your further research and investigation. So let's suppose we want to look at the animal remedies coming through for fear of dark. If you remember, we double click the pie, and then we get a chart of the mammals, the mollusks, the arachnids, the birds, the crustaceans, and so on. And let's double click on the mammals to see which mammal groups are coming through. And we have the human group, remedies derived from human sources and remedies derived from other animals. And if we click on the human cone here, we can see the remedies belonging to the human kingdom, Medorhinum, by far and away being the most prevalent for fear of the dark. Returning back to the main screen and going back to our repertory search for fear of the dark, one other thing to perhaps point out is that there is information about the kingdoms within ISIS itself which is nothing to do with searching and nothing to do with repertorizations, and it's available at any time by clicking the little arrow next to the kingdoms icon, which like creates a submenu for you, and clicking on the information choice, and this takes you into the ISIS Vision database of kingdom information. And again we have the four kingdoms, the plant kingdom, the mineral kingdom, the animal kingdom, and the other energies kingdom, with their subgroupings available for you to click on. So for example, if we were to look at the animal kingdom, you may notice that you can click on any of the blue and underlines here. I'll click on the animals kingdom, and ISIS will open my Internet Explorer on my desktop and show me information about the animal kingdom. And I'll just rearrange this screen so you can see here a beautiful picture of a tiger followed by information about the animal kingdom. And when I close this back, if I want to go deeper into the animal kingdom, let's suppose for birds, I could double click on the bird family. And again now we have a blue hyperlink here for birds, so again I'll click on the bird family and it will give us again a nice image if it's appropriate and information about the bird family on the screen. And this is a very nice way of learning about the different kingdoms and the different families when you just want to read information unconnected with a case or with searching. Finally, let me just close this screen and come out of the families and kingdoms altogether. I just want to leave you with knowledge of a further facility that you can use on your system if you really want to deeply get into families and kingdoms, and this relates to searching itself. So for example, when searching the repertory, if you look here, you can actually search the repertory for search words, but restricting your rubrics to certain rubrics that contain certain animals, certain plants, certain minerals, and you can specify how many remedies should appear in the rubrics to give yourself a picture of the rubrics that are present for certain families and kingdoms. And you can do the same with materia medica. So if you choose to search materia medica, you can actually search for words in materia medica, but only ask to see certain groups of remedies in the results so that you can learn and educate groups of remedies. Whether you understand callies and natrums and silicata to be families, or whether you use daisies and mints and milks to mean families, the choice is yours.